Hey, Soul Warriors. This is Jessica Noel coming at you with episode 2 of my podcast. And today we're going to talk about overcoming obstacles. What is your life trying to teach you? So, this is a really wonderful topic to shift your perspective on what is happening in your life, and particularly the things that you're being challenged with, those very things that are causing suffering and difficulty and pain. So, I want to talk to you about that warrior energy again that we talked about last week. As I started this podcast today, I called you soul warrior because that is indeed what we have to be on this path. We have to be persistent. We have to overcome obstacles. And sometimes we have to call on that energy to fight through things, because these things that we are overcoming are often things that are very intensely wired in our system. So wired in our brains, where we've got these very firm patterns, these subconscious behaviors, and that takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of strength to overcome those, and a lot of courage too. The other thing that we need to look at is, on this path, we're often doing exactly the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So we're actually swimming upstream, we're moving the other direction, and everybody else is going the other way. And that also takes a lot of energy and courage and perseverance to keep going and to trust and have faith that this is the right path for you. So, what I'm talking about when I'm saying you're swimming upstream and everyone else is going the other direction, there are a good amount of people now on the spiritual path that are awakening or are awakened, and they're doing the same thing. So that's wonderful. You have companions. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that are still running their old patterns. They're using their default wiring. We talked last week about default and manual mode. They're using their default wiring. They're doing the same thing that they were taught as children. They're carrying out perhaps toxic patterns or patterns that are not serving them. They're continuing to move forward with their limiting beliefs, creating barriers, maybe suffering at the very least. It's limiting their capacity to live their authentic, soulful lives and to really reach their maximum potential, of course, as well. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, you're really moving the other direction, because you're taking a look at that, you're observing these things, and you're saying, you know what, that's not really what I want to do with my life. That's not the belief that I want to have. That's not the default wiring that I want to use anymore. I want to move forward differently. I want to shed that. I want to purify. And so that's why it takes so much courage and perseverance, because you might have people around you, your family, your friends, maybe even your partner. They're not doing the same thing. They're just continuing to loop and to move forward in the default mode. So as you move forward, it's really going to be great for you to have companions that are on the same path as you. That's going to really support you. It's going to help to give you strength to keep going. You guys can talk about all kinds of experiences and process through the things that you're looking at and that you're realizing. So it's going to be important to connect with those people that are on the same path as well. So I want to talk to you about, what is your life trying to teach you? There are a lot of things that we experience in life. We experience loss, we experience abandonment, we experience, grief. We experience the loss not only of someone leaving our life, but maybe the actual death of a loved one. We also experience challenging people, sometimes people that are very difficult. It can be very stressful to interact with them. Maybe they have anger, maybe they have some other kind of behavior pattern that is very challenging. And sometimes we have a lot of fear and anxiety. So I want to talk to you about, like, how can you work with those things that you're experiencing? What are they here to teach you? And I want to give you some examples of that. So when we talk about abandonment, there's a lot of people that are afraid of abandonment. They've been abandoned before. They have this fear of it. So as we talk through that, it's important to allow yourself to feel the feelings. So I'm definitely I definitely agree with feeling the feelings, letting them sit there, sitting with them, letting them transmute. We talked about that last week. So it's important not to just push that away and move on. Okay, here's an action step. You've got to sit with that. Okay, those are valid. Be gentle with it. Accept that you have those feelings. Allow them to be there. And then after it feels like there's a shift that has happened, maybe you've been sitting for too long in that, and it's time to move forward. And you have to discern that, but sit with it long enough to really feel that. What's underneath that? What's it about? Maybe even what's it connected to? Sometimes it is helpful, we do need to go into the past of where did this start? Where was the first feeling of abandonment, for example? But sometimes it's just really helpful to stay with the present. Okay, well, I feel this now. Yes, it's connected to some things in the past, and here I am. I want to release it. I want to see what it's here to teach me. And particularly if you keep having the same experience over and over, that means you're looping through it. That means you have another opportunity to get the lesson. So if you don't get it the first time, what these things are here to teach you, it will come up again, and then again, and then again, and again, and again, until you finally get the message that you are meant to learn from that. So reduce suffering, move through things faster, by really discerning, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is it here to teach you? Looking at things through this perspective, I think that's really going to resonate with you, and you're going to be able to look at your life experiences and see the truth in this. This is definitely a universal truth. And once you start dealing with it, addressing it in this way, coping with it in this way, you're going to start to see a lot of changes. So give it a try and see how this unfolds for you. Okay, so with the looping we just talked about, it will come up again and again until you are able to get what it's here to teach you. So that perspective, what that means is everything in your life is here for you. I'll say it again. Everything in your life is here for you. There is nothing happening that is against you. That is not what is happening. It is here for you. So if you start to look at it like that, and that's probably going to flip your perspective for a lot of you. These things are here to teach you. This is for your growth and your evolution. So start working with it like that. And it's also a lot more empowering. That means that you have the power to overcome this. That means that you are the one that is taking the reins, and you're deciding, and you're moving forward, and you're not at the mercy of anything. So it really is going to tear down that block, that barrier of you being a victim of your situation, because that's not the truth. That's not what's happening. So I think if you start to open up to this idea, then you're going to start to see the truth in it. So back to the idea of abandonment. I've got several examples, and I want to give you, an abandonment as one of them. What is that here to teach you? Because as I give you these examples, I think that you can look at your own life and say, okay, this is something I've been faced with. So what might that be here to teach me? I think it'd be easier for you to discern what that might be. So with abandonment, that teaches you to stand on your own. It may also be teaching you discernment about your choices. So for example, with abandonment, maybe you keep choosing a certain mate over and over and over again, and they abandon you every time. So that is going to be partly because you're supposed to learn something from abandonment, but it's also going to be maybe the choices that you're making are not in your best interest. Maybe those are from a very wounded place, and we all have wounded places. So definitely be gentle and loving with yourself about that. But maybe the people that you're choosing are not right for you, and you're really pushing and trying to keep that. A lot of us have trouble letting go and allowing things to unfold. But when we hold on, we're delaying our happiness. We're delaying what we're meant to be moving into. And of course, it's going to cause suffering. So it's possible that part of that abandonment is that discerning, making different choices. But definitely abandonment teaches you how to stand on your own in a much stronger way, or maybe for the first time. There are other teachings in abandonment as well that you can consider, but these are some very common teachings of abandonment. When it comes to Rejection. Lots of us have experienced rejection, right? What does rejection help us to learn? A couple things. Rejection helps us to increase our self-love. So as we feel rejection, ask yourself this: as you feel rejection, are you taking that in, that there's something defective about you, that you're not good enough in some way? And that's something, if that's how it's affecting you, that means increasing your self-love, increasing your confidence, really loving all of these amazing, good qualities, these gifts that you have. That's going to be really important. That's going to be one of the main lessons of rejection. Another lesson of rejection might be coming to a place where you have indifference to the opinions of others. So if you have a people-pleasing pattern that you've learned, or that you've along the way, maybe you've developed that, this is a really good way to break that. So stepping out of the people-pleasing and looking at self-love and beginning to grow that strength and that self-love so strongly that it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of you, because you know who you are, you know your value, you know your worth. And if they don't like you, they don't like it, they reject you, that means they're not for you. They're not meant to be in your life. They can't see you. Moving on, find someone who can. Find a group of people, your friends, your loved ones, your family, whether that's biological family or whether that's a family you create, your partners. Choose the ones that can see you, that value you, that love you. In order to do that, you got to start loving yourself. And that comes first. So that's a big one that rejection can teach you. So as I was saying, it's also like trusting. So rejection can help you trust that who's meant for you, who's meant to be in your life, will be, and who isn't, won't be. So a lot of times what I see with rejection is what I talked about before, really holding on to something that's not right for you. Oh my gosh, how many of us have done that? Oh, wow. That's really common. And I just was speaking to someone, a client the other day, and she was doing something like that with her work situation. So we can do it in all areas of our life. And it was really clear that that was no longer right for her. But she wasn't going to be the one to really pull the trigger. So things had to orchestrate themselves so that it kind of turned into rejection to some extent, into really pushing her to make that choice. This happens in relationships all the time, right? So you might be getting signs like, wow, this person is not seeing me. They're not really treating me right. This isn't the right thing for me. You might really be seeing that, but you're refusing to make a decision. You're refusing to make a choice to end the relationship, maybe because you are afraid. There's a lot of fear involved with that. Maybe because you have a hard time letting go. Maybe you want to control it too. It could be a variety of different things. But it's really important to start to pay attention to the signs and see if you can work on letting go, because that's going to really ease your suffering. That's going to be a shortcut for you. Like we talked about in the very beginning, if you want to shortcut things, if you want to make things easier and gentler, understand the teachings much faster. Really sit with them. What's going on here? What's this here to teach me? Do I have a wound or behavioral pattern at play? And that's going to help a lot. So when we talk about trusting that whatever situation, whatever job, whatever person is meant to be in your life will be, and whoever or whatever situation is not meant to be in your life won't be, what does that come down to? It really comes down to what we talked about in the first episode, your relationship and your trust in the divine. So whoever that higher power is for you, whatever name you're choosing, if you're able to use the name God, that's fine. If you can't, using the other ones. But somehow connecting with that energy and developing a trusting relationship. And you also have to have a trusting relationship with yourself to some extent. And so one way to do that is make sure that you're always following through on the things that you're saying you're going to do. So if, even small things, even if it has to do with like making your bed or cleaning your house, if it has to do with, some sort of goal, make them very achievable and make sure you follow through. Do it now is something that one of my spiritual teachers he's just got an acronym that's DIN, do it now. So those things that you delay, if you can think of the acronym DIN flash in your mind, do it now. Don't delay it, just do it now. You're developing trust with yourself as you follow through on these things that you're telling yourself you're going to do. And when you don't do that, your self-trust starts to dwindle. And that is also tied to your trust of a power greater than you. So it is all connected. Another way of trusting a power greater than you is to keep a journal, doing the prayers and meditations like we talked about last episode, but also keeping a journal of the things that take place. There are so many synchronicities and little tiny miracles, signs, beautiful experiences in prayer or meditation that often go unnoticed, or you might notice it in the moment, but then you forget about it. So if you can start to write these down, the other thing it does is it trains your mind to start to notice these things more. And then you're going to notice more of them. And then keep in mind that what we focus on expands. So the more that you focus on that, the more it will expand and the more experiences you're going to have. And therefore, the more trust you're going to develop because you're directly experiencing it now. People can tell you all kinds of things. You can have all sorts of different beliefs, but when you start to directly experience something, it's then that you know. It's then that doubt begins to dissolve because you've now directly experienced something. This is something that is taught in the yogic lineage that I'm a part of that I mentioned before. And it's really about the science of, they call it the science of yoga, the science of Kriya Yoga, or the science of yoga. Yoga meaning union with the divine is what that means. So the science of it, what they mean by that is you can actually measure these things as you start to meditate, as you start to pray, as you start to have these experiences. These are measurable things. You're actually having them happen. They're real. And some of them are profound and pretty earth-shaking as you move forward. So it's very exciting. They're real, they're measurable. And so it's not just a belief structure. And that's what I want for all of you, is to have direct experiences. Because like I said, that's when knowing is instilled and doubts dissolve. And that's what matters. You know then it's not just a belief. It's a belief maybe too, but it's with a direct experience. Okay. So a couple other examples. Anxiety. Ooh, anxiety. How many people feel anxiety? Very, very common. A lot of the time, well, let me back up and say that anxiety can be from a number of different factors, but a lot of the time, anxiety comes from trying to control things, not trusting, having a hard time letting go. So sometimes anxiety is very specific to, I have several people actually that I'm seeing right now that have an anxiety about driving. Some people have an anxiety about their health. Some people have a fear of death, lots and lots, and most people really have a fear about death to some degree. And some are just more intense than others. So anxiety comes down to typically a fear. It is fear, a need to let go, and a desire to control. And there's not a trust there. So when we talk about there's not a trust there, we just talked about that in the last one when we talked about, rejection being often connected to the idea that whatever situation, whatever person's in your life is going to be there if they're meant to be, and they're not going to be if they're not meant to be. And that comes down to trusting the plan for your life, trusting a power greater than you, trusting that universal life force energy, that you are being guided and that things are purposeful. So in order to really trust that, you have to start there. And like I said before, if you don't make the decision to let go of that it's going to cause more suffering, and it's going to have to happen for you. So usually the rejection is happening because it's supposed to exit your life and you're not doing it. Maybe you weren't supposed to do it. Sometimes that's the case too. It's supposed to happen in a different way. Okay. So when it comes to anxiety, see if you can start to work with that. Okay, I'm supposed to learn how to let go of control. I'm supposed to learn how to trust. Allowing yourself to really let go of these outcomes that you can't control anyway. That's the thing, is there's a false idea, and usually it's subconscious, that we can somehow control these outcomes, and we can't. So let me give an example about like fear of death, for example, because that one is pretty prevalent. And when people are afraid of health issues or health, symptoms in their physical body, that often is related to a fear of death. So when it comes to the fear of death, if there's anxiety about it, that can mean a couple things. But one of the things that it means is there's an attempt to control it or to prevent it from happening. And there's no way to do that. We cannot control the outcome. We don't know all the details of when and how that's going to happen for us. We know it's going to happen eventually, right? Everyone will die. Everyone will leave their physical body. And so to tackle that fear, we have to start to, you could do a couple of things. One thing you could do is start to develop a belief about, well, what does that mean? Does that mean the end of everything? If that means to you the end of everything when you leave the physical body, then that's going to be a real challenge, because that's the end of everything that you know. So why don't you look at some other ideas? And so as you start to look at some other ideas and maybe have some direct experiences around those, then you can start to develop like, oh, okay, well, what if it's this instead? What if I have a soul? What if the soul lives on? What if the soul has always lived on? Some people believe in past lives, or at the very least, past soul experiences. Your soul has had many, many experiences, maybe many lifetimes. And so in that context, this is just like a drop in the bucket, and your soul will continue on, and perhaps you'll have another lifetime, or perhaps your soul will stay in spirit. So that's one idea. Other ideas, heaven. There's no, there's a belief that there's no reincarnation, but there's a paradise, that there's a heaven, a realm that's non-physical. So connect with other alternatives, or strengthen the one that you have. And if you can move more into focusing on the present moment and enjoying every moment that you do have, because we don't know exactly when and how that's going to happen for us. So if we can let go and say, okay, nothing I can do, I can't control that outcome. I'm just going to be in the moment and enjoy everything to the fullest as best I can. So it's easy for me to say those words, and actually embodying that and beginning to experience that is another thing. But if you have that intention, it will start to come. So sit with that intention, allow things to unfold. It'll start to ease the fear and the anxiety, and find or strengthen a new belief about what that means. Okay. And in other ways, think about ways that you might be, anxiety, like I said, comes often from trying to control outcomes. What other ways might you be trying to control outcomes, which is going to cause at least anxiety, but likely a lot of stress, and often that will really affect the physical body? Sometimes try to control outcomes of relationships, of job situations, of what your partner does or doesn't do, of really the direction that your health is going. So there are certain things within all of these situations that you can control. So it's really wise to start to observe ways that you might be trying to control outcomes, which we never can do, but start to think about, well, what in this situation or in this relationship can I control? Identifying that, understanding where is the line between what I can control and what I have to let go of, I have no control over. And then just focusing on the things you can control. For example, if you have some concerns about your health, or you have a fear of death, there are certain things within that you can control, right? You can eat really healthy. You can exercise your body. You can take certain supplements, or if you have a health condition, you take medicine. It's fine. There's other things, that you can do to strengthen your health. So think about those types of things that you can do, and then draw the line. This is it. This is what I can control. And then I'm going to let go after that. It's a choice. And then it takes strength and again, courage, bravery. It takes that soul warrior energy to start to implement that. It does take more energy than staying in the default mode and staying in the anxiety, the pain, the abandonment fears, and so on. But you can do it. Every time it comes up, catch it as soon as you can. Remind yourself, say it in your head, repeat it back to yourself, write it on a piece of paper, read that every day. If it's something that you're struggling with on a daily basis, that affirmation is going to reprogram the subconscious mind. And there's all kinds of tools that I do here to support people with this rewiring. There's emotional freedom technique tapping. There's a specific one that I use here. There's energy healing can be very powerful for that as well. And there's several other tools that I use that if you have questions about, you can certainly send me a message and I can let you know. Those things can speed it along. But affirmations, reading them every single day over and over to reprogram, those are effective as well. Okay, so the way of the soul warrior, we talked about that at the beginning. So this path is not a path for the faint-hearted. This is like we're down here, we're on the front lines, we got blood, we got sweat, we got tears. But the other thing that's beautiful about this path is that we also have joy, and we have these powerful spiritual experiences that start to become possible and available. And there's bliss, and there's love, and there's all kinds of sensations and delightful things that can happen, miracles even. So it has a mixture, but some of this is challenging, right? And so also having support, like I mentioned before, by people that are going through it, have been through it. So whether that's like people that are more like friends on your path, or people that are teachers, that's going to be really important too, so that you have the support that you need as you're moving through this. It's really important to keep in mind that these things that are crossing your path are here for you and are here to teach you very specific things. So keep that in mind. Maybe write that down somewhere you're going to see it every day. My life situations and experiences are here to teach me. What are they here to teach me? So again, with the prayer and meditation that we talked about last week, it's going to be really important for you to allow that time, saying prayers to, whatever your conception is of that power greater than you, and then doing your meditation. Meditation is going to be important too, because it's going to help give you clarity. A lot of people will, after they've meditated for a length of time, and sometimes it happens very soon. Actually, it can happen like the very week they start meditating. You can get downloads. You can get all this information. You have a question in your heart. You have a question in your mind. That's wonderful. Maybe you've prayed about it. Maybe you just have this, like, I wonder what I'm supposed to do next in my life, or I wonder if this is the right choice, or this is the right direction. Your meditation can offer a space for you to receive that guidance, or maybe even just validation that, yes, this is correct. This is the right path. So you've got to leave that space. We have such busy lives. We're always going from one thing to another. It's really important to leave that space, not only for guidance, but also for healing and for all types of other direct experiences to be able to happen. If you don't leave that space, it can't take place. Okay, beautiful. So I want to also invite you to send me an email and, let me know some things that are on your mind, questions that you might want to ask, because I'd like to incorporate that into some future podcasts. There are several other podcasts that I have already in mind that I'm going to use as topics. One of them is spiritual bypass. Another one is talking about different types of meditations and what they can do for you. A lot of these were topics in my spiritual evolution group that we already talked about, so I was going to elaborate on those and talk a little more about them. Another one is about spiritual perceptions. So when I say spiritual perceptions, I mean like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, and then there's also clairalience and clairgustance. Those are the clairs, and clairaudience is clear hearing, clairvoyance is clear seeing, and clairsentience is clear feeling. So these are all the different ways that, as your psychic intuitive abilities, maybe they're already activated, maybe they start to turn on, we can start to perceive things in that way. So likely you already have those, some of them at least, maybe even just one, that you've already had experience with. Everybody has the capacity to have these experiences with these, and many people already are. They may not even realize that they are. So we're going to talk about those in one of the episodes as well. And another one is going to be about sex. We're going to talk about sex on the spiritual path. So a lot of questions about that, I think, like what does that look like? And so that's going to be a fun topic as well. So not only will we talk about sex on the spiritual path, but we're also going to talk about sexual energetics and how it works at an energetic level. So go ahead though and send me some questions if you have anything that comes to mind, so I can talk through those maybe after some of these topics, maybe even a way to combine them as well. And so the next podcast that I'm going to do is going to be on miracles. So it's going to be on miracles, rapid healing, like how do those happen and how do you allow those in, and why does it happen sometimes with some people and not sometimes with others? So tune in next time for that. And I will be looking forward to connecting with you the next time. Bye for now.